Now tell us about the initial days of Sri Malani Group. The reason is you said a very interesting thing that he came almost with nothing, your great grandfather or ancestor who started, and his first line of business was definitely not what you are into right now. But then from there to now, and also you mentioned about philanthropic activities of the family, which you are even to this day involved with. How did this entire conglomerate take shape and to come to being what it is today? Seventh generation, so it's not a small journey.
See, I think a lot of credit goes to the early generations who really set up the base and brought in the business culture and all that. But over time, businesses change, and waxing and waning is a natural part of it. So for us also, businesses kept changing from uh, you know rice mills, dal mills, and all that into textile mills. Finally, that got closed, but all of that was quite before me. And then once I grew up, the memory started from the mattress business. It was started by my grandfather about 30 years back. Uh, it was a tough start even for him. So he started with a collaboration with some other company and an arrangement that they will buy back the entire production. And within a year of starting, the other company faded out totally. So we were left with an industry and no market. So I think my father and grandfather had to really work hard to develop it full fledged. So that was on the Century mattress business, and then create the brand Century. Initially, first couple of years we did not have the brand; we were just doing it as an OEM for someone else. And then I got involved in the business right after my education, after my MBA. So a year I spent training on various other activities, and then started Sri Malani Foams, which is the foam manufacturing, and where we cater to IKEA also. We started the production in 2008. So early days were very, very difficult because we conceptualized this vertical and this business in 2006 at the height of all the boom within India and globally. And we started production in October 2008, which was really at the nadir and the lowest point of business sentiment globally. So first 6 months or so were really, really tough and a very big struggle. Financial is one small aspect of it that we had the resources to manage, but even otherwise, to be able to sell anything and to be able to manage the supply chain during those first few months were really difficult. It was a different line. It was a more, we were never into foam manufacturing. So it was a totally new learning experience. The entire family was very supportive. I think even I was personally putting in about double shifts, leaving home at 5 o'clock in the morning for the factory, and then doing first shift at the factory till 2 o'clock, then coming back to the office and then reaching home by dinner time. But I think those are the tough times which really help me or give you the metal to be prepared in the future for tougher times. You don't get perturbed so easily in other disturbing times.
No, very, very true. And I mean, I can kind of visualize the journey what you have gone through and you're telling us. But a couple of things which I would like to bring out for the attention of all the people is in a family environment. Yes, you started, you conceptualized the business in 2006 and 2008 slump of the recession. You kind of came into the market and it was tough first 6 months. But as you rightly said, it's not just the finance which is the biggest challenge, but there are other issues. The one issue which I am kind of anticipating could have happened is in a family environment where it's a business family, everybody is doing things fairly well, and you have conceptualized something on your own and you are trying to give it wings and make it fly. But then there is a slump in the market, there is a sentimental issue from the business community across. How did you, I think you must be what, much younger than what you are now, but 10 years younger easily or 12 years younger then. So how did you handle that emotionally? Because today the biggest challenge what people are seeing is resources are one challenge, but then even when you have access to resources, maybe bank funding or maybe venture capitalists, people think they need instant success. For a established business family, a seven generation business family, even to you, success took 7 months or at least more than that. So, what was going on in your mind then? I want you to focus on that. I know I'm taking you back in the memory, but really that is important.
Sure, I think 7 months was not the period for success. 7 months was only the period for nightmare. After that, success took another year and a half or so to come because I remember quite distinctly, say, all the inventory we had was purchased at X rate. And by the time we started production, everything had become one third of X. So it was a huge loss on the inventory holding itself. And the meltdown really impacted the selling sentiment very, very badly. So I was about 24 years old then when I got into this. The family was very supportive because just coming out of my education, I had all the cost cutting ideas which were really probably not good in the long term. And which was like, okay, we can degrade the product by so much and no one will realize, we can do this and this will happen and all that. The family was very supportive that we are in it for the long term and we have to look at the next 20, 30 years. And the first 6 months or 1 year is more important to establish the reputation and the brand rather than really to make any profit. And this is an extraordinary situation, the meltdown. So don't worry about the extraordinary situation. Even though the markets are behaving irrationally, you have to behave rationally. That was the whole gist given by the family, which gave the strength to do the right things. Probably we lost a little bit more than the other competitors. A, because were a startup, and B, because in the uh, in the pursuance of establishing good quality reputation and brand, we probably gave a bit extra into the product and the market. I think over the long term that really helped because the year after that, in 2010 onwards, probably we had the best years for the next couple of years in terms of profitability and product acceptance and success.
Yeah, I mean, the line for me to take away is, even though people around you, including the markets, behave irrationally, you need to behave rationally. I think that's a great learning and lesson over there. Thank you very much for sharing. Now, from there on, as you said, 2010 onwards, you started building and not looking back. And I know for a fact that the business has strengthened from place to place. But from there on, growing on to become India's first mattress supplier to a Swedish brand, IKEA, when they came and chose Hyderabad as their destination in the country. Tell us about that experience and what kind of standards and filtrations they kind of pushed you into, or how was it? How was that entire thing?
So we perchance connected with IKEA, having seen some of their suppliers' factory in Europe and North America. We thought, hey, this looks like a good company to work with. So we perchance connected. But that snowballed into a big requirement of IKEA for a mattress vendor in India. And we never realized that it is not going to be just a one-on-one discussion with them or so, because we were totally new to their way of working. So their way of working entailed a 1 year study of top 15 or 20 manufacturers in India and then multiple rounds of filtration. So it took a lot of perseverance and self-belief to really get through that. Initially, once they threw their requirements of quality and other compliances and social compliances at us, we looked at the checklist and we said, yeah, okay, this looks fairly standard. We'll be able to do everything. And we said, fine, we are good to go. We'll be able to do everything. Then they initiated some audits. And in the audit, we scored, believe it or not, 15 out of 100. And that was still not considered to be too bad. Under 10 was considered to be too bad in the first round of audit. And IKEA has a requirement that you need to have minimum 90% to be even inducted as a supplier and 100% thereafter for sure without any question. Then a tsunami hit us, and we were like, okay, we thought we are already at 100. You ended up with 15. You need to go to 100. Where is the future? How big a change management will be there? And we were very skeptical about it, but we kept pursuing it. And it took a 3 year journey to have a startup with IKEA. Ultimately, thereafter, also, it took us about a year or so to really digest the change they would bring to the entire way of working. And that is when all the theory, what we learn in MBA and education, that change management is so critical and all that came into play. That cultural change and the mindset change of the team. So a partner like IKEA really helped us hone our skills in that direction, and we became more aware of what is happening and what the social compliances and obligations of businesses should be and how the way of working should be. And that really helped us. I think from there we went on to a different level in terms of the productivity benchmarks and all that, and all other benchmarks. It has been a very good learning association with them.
Well,
Overall, even apart from IKEA, the other foam manufacturing businesses really scaled up in the 8-10 years. So scaling up also took a lot of increase in the bandwidth and increase in the management efficiency. So that was also something really exciting.
great. Well, I'm sure, absolutely sure, you're trying to be humble here. As much as you have learned from IKEA, IKEA also has learned a lot of things in dealing with you, because I know for a fact how you deal with people, how you interact with your employees. And I had an opportunity to talk to a couple of your employees in my own conversations. So the way, the image, as you said, the image they carry of the company where they work is definitely on their sleeve and on their forehead, the pride. So that is there. With that, I want to ask you this connected question about when you know that you are at 100 and you get 15 out of 100, okay, and then you need to move to 100. There might be some kind of a lag in your own mind or in people saying that it's okay. I mean, why am I going to prove myself to this guy, because I know I'm already doing and my business is already running well. Okay, IKEA was, as you said, it was a pre-chance meeting, and it kind of snowballed into a supplier, distributor, or a supplier and a buyer kind of an arrangement. So, how did you handle that? Because change management happens two times. Once in reality on the floor, but the once is here. So, how did that go with you and maybe people around you, your board or your family or however?
Yeah, that was quite tough. That was quite tough because once we saw that it's a wide chasm to jump over, to convince all the team that it's still worthwhile. Because as you very rightly pointed out, the business as usual was going good, and we were still growing on the other verticals and our own brand of mattresses and all that. So really, the value of why to take this jump and why to do such a big and complex project, to show that value was quite tough. I think we really had to sit down a number of times and see, and on what all parameters, what is it that we stand to gain apart from the financial P&L. What is the value that we stand to gain? What are the technologies which we want to adopt and can be learned? What are the production efficiencies they can bring? What are the purchase efficiencies they can bring? It was not easy. In fact, we traveled uh, once to North America and once to Europe, maybe twice to Europe, to meet their other suppliers and really talk with them and understand with them. And not just me alone, but our plant director, our HR head, and other stakeholders also, who really had to put in all the sweat and the hard work to deliver this, convince them. And it was once they got convinced that it is worthwhile and they could align with our vision, then half the battle was won.
Very true. I mean, well said and well articulated. Thank you for sharing that, because that's very important. As you said, once our team members kind of get sold on it, and then it becomes that much more easy to for us to move ahead. Now, in this entire journey, I mean, I'll take it from 2005, 2006 onwards to now, maybe a decade and a half. In this entire journey as an entrepreneur, you have seen the ups and downs, the global meltdown of 2008. You're also seeing the pandemic of 2019, 2020, or more say 2020, I say. What have you learned as an entrepreneur? You've already shared some wisdom in terms of be rational in spite of everything around you being irrational. But I would like to know from you what Siddharth Malani is today compared to what he was when he began his journey as an entrepreneur. What has been your single biggest learning so far?
That's a tough one, Chandra, because you also being an entrepreneur and an educationist know it's very difficult to highlight a single learning. I think it is really to manage the adversity, which is the single biggest learning. And really, when the going gets tough, the tough people or the senior people have to get going. Unless you are there for your entire team, it's very difficult to expect the kind of response and the ownership from the entire team. You have to be there. Ultimately, you have your skin in the game, then only you can ask others to up their game to the same level. That has been one of the biggest learnings.
That is fantastic, and I cannot agree more. As you rightly said, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I know that you have proved it, and you have given it all you can, because the last Economic Times article I remember reading, where with changing shifts and trying to make some course corrections, you are one of the foremost companies, I can say, in Hyderabad, who brought in employees back to work, kind of created that environment in line with the new normal. So, as you rightly said, you need to be adaptable, you need to be available, and you need to create that environment for people so that they kind of get the incentive, the motivation to up their game. So, that's a great lesson for all of us who are listening and watching this, that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going, and not just going, you need to keep your skin in the game. Then you can expect people to kind of invest their skin and also upgrade their level in the game. So thank you so much, Siddharth, for that.